Admiral Kex'than stood before the massive viewport of his flagship, the Worldbreaker, watching the blue-green marble that was Earth slowly rotate beneath them. His forearms crossed behind his chitinous back as he studied the primitive world with satisfaction. After 3 millennia of conquest, he could identify easy prey at a glance. "Scan results, Commander Yiltalk," he rumbled, his voice carrying the authority of 1,000 victories. The younger Vorthak officer's mandibles clicked nervously as she consulted her display. "The inhabitants have achieved basic spaceflight, Admiral. Chemical rockets, crude orbital stations. Their most advanced vessels barely reach their own moon. Population approximately 8 billion across 7 continents." Kex'than's compound eyes glittered with amusement. "Weapons. Nuclear fission bombs, kinetic projectiles, chemical explosives. Nothing that could penetrate even our scout ship shields." Yiltalk paused, reviewing the data again. "They call themselves humans, so bipedal mammals. No natural armor, no redundant organs. Remarkably fragile." The Admiral's mandibles spread in what passed for a smile among his species. In his 3 centuries of service to the Vorthak Empire, he had never encountered a world so perfectly suited for harvesting. The humans had developed just enough to be useful as a labor force, but remained hopelessly outmatched militarily. "Fleet status?" he asked. "All 700 vessels report ready, Admiral. Dreadnoughts, carriers, bombardment platforms. The Worldbreaker alone carries enough firepower to crack their continents." Kex'than nodded, already composing his victory report to the Emperor. This conquest would take hours at most. The humans would surrender the moment they witnessed Vorthak technology in action. They always did. "Sir," Communications Officer Zektar interrupted, "we're receiving a transmission from the planet's surface." "Already?" Kex'than's interest peaked. Most primitive species required several demonstrations of superior firepower before attempting contact. "Display it." The main screen flickered to life, showing a human female seated behind what appeared to be a metal desk. She had pale skin, short brown hair, and wore a simple blue uniform. Her expression was unnervingly calm. "Greetings," she said in accented standard Galactic. "I am Secretary General Maria Santos of the United Earth Defense Council. We've been monitoring your fleet's approach for the past 18 hours. Murmurs rippled across the bridge. Most species couldn't detect Vorthak vessels until they were already in orbit. "We know why you're here," Santos continued. "Your empire has a predictable pattern. 700 ships, standard invasion formation, immediate demands for surrender. We've studied your methods extensively." Kex'than's amusement began to fade. "How extensively?" As if hearing his question, Santos smiled, a disturbing expression that revealed her small, white teeth. "We've been watching your empire for quite some time, Admiral. Proxima Centauri wasn't actually uninhabited when you claimed it 60 years ago. The listening post there has provided fascinating intelligence about Vorthak military doctrine." The bridge fell silent. Proxima Centauri was deep within Vorthak space, heavily patrolled and surveyed. The idea of a hidden human installation was impossible. "You're lying," Kex'than growled, but uncertainty crept into his voice. "The mining colony at Wolf 359? Also not as empty as you believed. Neither was the asteroid field at Barnard Star." Santos leaned forward, her eyes hardening. "We've been preparing for this moment for over a century, Admiral. Did you really think we'd just sit here waiting?" Yiltalk's talons flew over her scanner controls. "Sir, I'm detecting energy signatures throughout their system. Multiple sources, massive power outputs. They're everywhere." "Impossible," Kex'than snarled. "Show me." The tactical display exploded with contacts. Hundreds of them, scattered throughout Earth's solar system. Stations hidden in asteroid belts, platforms disguised as space debris, installations buried in planetary surfaces. Each one radiated enough energy to power a small city. "My God," Zektar whispered. "How did we miss all of this?" Santos stood up on the screen, her calm demeanor shifting to something far more dangerous. "Because you've never encountered a species that had time to prepare for you. Every other world you conquered was caught off guard, unprepared. But Earth has been ready for decades." Warning klaxons suddenly blared across the Worldbreaker's bridge. The main display shifted to show the human installations powering up simultaneously, their energy signatures climbing beyond anything in the Vorthak database. Admiral, Yiltork's voice cracked with fear. Those power readings, they're impossible. No known technology can generate that kind of energy. Santos smiled again, and this time it was absolutely terrifying. Unknown to you, perhaps. But then again, your empire never encountered humanity during wartime. You missed our most important period of technological development. She paused, letting the implications sink in. Tell me, Admiral, what do you know about human history between 1939 and 1945? Kex'than's blood ran cold as the fleet's computers began screaming warnings about massive energy buildups throughout the human system. Whatever was happening, they had seconds to react. All ships, he roared into his communicator. Evasive maneuvers. Prepare for. The transmission cut off as space around the Vorthak fleet suddenly erupted in brilliant white light. The world breaker shuddered as exotic energy washed over its hull, but the shields held. Kex'than dragged himself upright from where the initial shockwave had thrown him, his compound eyes struggling to process what he was seeing on the tactical display. Where 700 Vorthak warships had been moments before, only 412 remained. Report, he bellowed, his voice cracking with disbelief. Sir, Yiltork stammered, her talons shaking as she whacked her console. We've lost nearly 300 vessels. Complete molecular disintegration. No wreckage, no energy signatures. They had just gone. The main screen flickered back to life, showing Secretary General Santos still standing calmly in her office. Behind her, through a window, Kex'than could see the curve of Earth's horizon and the twinkling lights of orbital installations that definitely hadn't been there in their initial scans. Curious, Santos said, tilting her head slightly. Your shielding is more advanced than we anticipated. Most species we've tested this on don't survive the first pulse. Tested. Kex'than's mandibles clicked frantically. What are you? Santos walked to her window, gazing out at the diminished Vorthak fleet with the casual interest of someone observing insects. We're human, Admiral, but perhaps not the kind you expected to find. She turned back to face him. Your intelligence is quite thorough regarding our recent history. Chemical rockets, nuclear fission, primitive computers, all accurate, as of 60 years ago. The bridge's emergency lighting cast everything in a hellish red glow as damage reports flooded in from across the fleet. Ships that had survived were reporting shield failures, hull breaches, and complete systems malfunctions from whatever energy weapon the humans had deployed. You want to know what you missed? Santos continued conversationally. You catalogued our wars, our weapons, our technology, but you made a critical error in your assessment timeline. Kex'than watched in horror as new contacts appeared on his screens. Human ships, if they could be called that, materializing from what had appeared to be empty space. They were sleek, angular constructs that seemed to bend light around them, making them difficult to focus on directly. The year 2157, Santos said. First successful faster-than-light experiment. 2162. First extrasolar colony established. 2170. Discovery of zero-point energy manipulation. By 2180, we had our first temporal research stations. Temporal. Commander Yiltork whispered. Santos nodded. Your empire moves predictably, Admiral. Always has. We've had nearly 200 years to study your conquest patterns, your technology, your weaknesses. When we detected your scouting probes entering our outer system 18 months ago, we knew exactly when you'd arrive and exactly what you'd bring. The human ships moved with impossible precision, their formations shifting through space in ways that violated basic physics. They didn't accelerate gradually like normal vessels. They simply appeared in new positions, as if space itself was folding around them. Sir, Zektar called out desperately. I'm receiving surrender requests from 17 ships. The Dreadnought Skullcrusher reports complete engine failure. The carrier Void Render is showing cascade failures across all systems. Kex'than stared at the tactical display, watching his centuries of military experience crumble. The human vessels weren't even firing conventional weapons. They seemed to be manipulating fundamental forces, turning the Vorthak fleet's own energy against itself. How? He demanded. Santos smiled that terrifying human expression again. Your species develops along predictable evolutionary paths. Bigger ships, stronger weapons, more efficient engines. Linear progression. She gestured toward the window, where human ships were now visible to the naked eye, their forms shifting and phasing like mirages. Humans don't think linearly, Admiral. We think laterally. While you were building bigger hammers, we were learning to reshape the laws of physics. A new alarm sounded as 3 more Vorthak vessels simply ceased to exist, their matter scattered across dimensions that didn't have names in standard Galactic. The fascinating thing about temporal research, Santos continued, is what you learn about cause and effect. For instance, did you know that every species your empire has conquered sent out distress signals before they died? Quantum broadcasts that echo backwards through time. Kex'than's blood turned to ice. That's impossible. Is it? We received 17,000 such signals over the past century. Civilizations crying out in their final moments, begging for someone, anyone, to stop the Vorthak Empire before it could destroy them. Santos' expression hardened. We listened to every single one. The remaining Vorthak ships were now completely surrounded by human vessels that appeared and disappeared at will. Some of the human craft were massive, easily dreadnought-sized, while others seemed no larger than fighters but radiated energy signatures that dwarfed the Worldbreaker. You're wondering why we're talking instead of simply erasing you? Santos observed. The answer is simple. Your empire spans 12,000 star systems. Your total military numbers in the hundreds of millions of ships. This fleet represents less than 1% of Vorthak military capacity. She walked closer to the camera, and Kex'than could see something unsettling in her eyes. Not hatred or anger, but the cold calculation of a predator that had found its prey. We needed to see exactly how advanced you really were before we decided what to do about the other 99%, Santos said quietly. Congratulations, Admiral. You've just provided us with all the data we needed. The human ships began to pulse with that same brilliant energy that had destroyed nearly half his fleet in the opening seconds of the engagement. Wait! Kex'than roared. We surrender. Full unconditional surrender. Santos paused, considering. Do you know what every other species told your fleets when they realized they were going to die? The pulsing intensified. They said exactly the same thing.